Hi, this is Joel, and I'd like to welcome you again to our channel, Senior Power Community. Today we have a very important um, discussion and sharing, and that involves the presence of so-called romance scams. If you'd like, I would go back, if you have not seen it, to the other episode in this series, which involves a discussion of scams as an introduction on a very high level. I think it is worthwhile. So let's begin. I'm showing you an icon to the left of two people talking on the phone. And this is a very interesting icon because it actually represents what a romance scam is, at least the initial occurrence of it. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. So we are going to look today at understanding and preventing romance scams. A lot of people fall victim to this, and we do not want you to. So we're going to spend some time reviewing this and seeing what it means and seeing how we can protect ourselves. So we're going to talk about what it is, what a romance scam is, how to avoid it, very important, things that you must be aware of, how to recover from it, because unfortunately, if you should get into one of these, it's not easy to recover, and we're going to have to help you go through the steps of trying to at least recover something from this. Please note at the bottom here our website, www.ourseniorpower.com. And the purpose of the website is to support the podcast as well as to provide for the podcast the more in-depth information, learning aids, resources, and how to use particular tools such as artificial intelligence, which is going to be more and more the area which we're going to be focusing on because it is so important to today's senior life. Let's go through an agenda on what we're going to be presenting and discussing today and sharing with you. We're going to start by looking at what is our Senior Power Community Channel. Just a short, brief discussion of that, particularly if you've seen previous episodes. Then we're going to introduce romance scams. I say introduce because it's a very complex topic, and it really is just an overview because of its complexity. But there's a lot in here that you could use. For example, how do you recognize the warning signs? What are the steps to protect yourself? And then how to recover should you be involved with one of these scams. It's very complex. And finally, the support and resources for not just the victims, but the people in your friends and family groups and people from the outside agencies. And we're going to look at the next episode or episodes in this particular series, which deals with safety and security. And finally, a question and answer period. Let me introduce and discuss briefly why do we have this particular channel, the Senior Power Community. Purpose is to allow you to make informed decisions on topics that we are exposed to and that require attention throughout the course of our senior years. The purpose is using the informed decisions, which are based upon information which is definitely actionable, and actionable means we can trust it, that will eventually result in your overall improvement to your quality of life. Okay. You should live in interesting times. Well, times are certainly a-changing. And this phrase, which is often said to have been said by a Chinese general, is not really so. It's actually from this gentleman, Sir Joseph Chamberlain, who was a member of the UK Parliament in the past. And this is really a curse. It's not a blessing. And what this means is you don't want to live in interesting times, because that's when there is a lot of problems, and we have enough the way things are. Okay. We provide support to our community. We address the complex, and I think the older you get, the more complex it becomes. The complex needs of seniors and their entire support network. We will address only critical and timely topics, and we are independent. We do not believe in outside influences. They can give their opinions, they can contribute information, but in order for us to generate actionable information, everything has to be reviewed, assessed, scored, and determine whether or not we should base decisions on it. And then we have an interesting thing in that this channel, this community, has everything a senior needs all in one place. And I don't think there is such a channel. I've not been able to find on YouTube, for example. So this is really cutting through a lot of the stuff to provide you with the essence of what you need to be exposed to and learn from in the areas which we are involved with on a day-to-day basis. In addition to the list I gave above, health, independence, and so forth, I want to note that this is an AI-based podcast. And most of our work is done by using artificial intelligence. And we will teach you and work with you so that you can develop a very detailed understanding, but also how to use this tool. I think that that's quite good. And from it, we get senior power, which arises from having the knowledge, and just not the knowledge, but an understanding of what all that means. All right, let's jump into it now, for real. And we were going to begin, as we said in the agenda, an introduction to romance scams. And just to give you that definition, a romance scam exploit emotional connections to defraud individuals, often through online platforms. And we must understand their nature because it is crucial as a way of preventing them by being successful in their scam. Let's begin in the beginning. And that means let me provide you with our view of a definition and an overview of what these romance scams are. Okay, so let's try to understand what a romance scam is. Let us look at the emotional impact. Let us look at the financial consequences. Okay. What is it? A romance scam is a scheme or a technique where fraudsters actually pose as potential partners to take advantage of their victims, both emotionally and for sure shooting financially. Awareness is key and vital to prevention of this particular scam falling upon our heads. I tell you, the emotional impact, from what I've observed, is absolutely has a tremendous impact. A person who has gone through this or going through it has significant emotional distress, particularly feelings of gross betrayal and heartbreak. You lose your trust. And of course, financially, although I think it's very important, but it might be number 2 on the totem pole here, you will lose and have lost and incredibly very large sums of money. And this leads to long-term financial difficulties and the loss of trust due to both betrayal and heartbreak. Romance scams, to summarize, involve con artists, let's call it what it is, pretending to be romantically interested in their victims to gain their trust, and then, as time goes on, and it could be very short, exploit them financially. And the deception causes all sorts of problems. So who are the targets of these romance scams? Who are the vulnerable individuals? And who is at particular risk? Us, senior adults. And where does it come from? We are vulnerable because in a lot of respects, as we get older, we become more lonely. We're looking for companionship, friends, close family relationships, and it becomes more difficult as you get older. So the fact that you are looking makes you more vulnerable to this type of scam, and you're easier to manipulate. Why older adults? Again, not everybody, but certainly a large majority of people in our age group are not familiar with the workings of these online dating platforms. And because of that, you could be quote unquote naive, don't understand what the background is of these, how it's being exploited. But don't worry, we're going to look at it. And as I said, the greatest of all environments which the scams come from are online dating environments such as Facebook. And these people use expertly tailored and developed profiles. They know more about you potentially than you know yourself about yourself. They do their research. They spend a lot of time learning about you and then designating you as a target should you meet the criteria. Let's just spend a little bit of time on the statistics and prevalence of these romance scams. There is a rising quantity of these romance scams. And it's a concern because it's growing so rapidly. It almost looks like so-called exponential growth, which is incredible growth. Financial loss, if we're just counting money here, is tremendous. It's billions of dollars, that's billions with a B, lost annually to these scams. And we're not counting here the so-called, I wouldn't call them so-called, that's what they do, the so-called soft losses, which is the way your emotions are being impacted. So the bottom line is, you must be aware. The only way you can prevent this, depending upon your level of sophistication, is to understand what these scams are and how they operate. Well, in summary, recent statistics indicate a very, very troubling rise in the number of romance scams with a lot of money lost each year. This emphasizes the need for awareness and understanding so we can develop and implement the preventive measurements. By discussing the first topic, which are how do you recognize the warning signs. This is probably one of the, if not the most important topic. Because if you know the warning signs and you are implementing your knowledge to elucidate whether you are being scammed, you won't have to go through everything else, and you want to avoid it like the plague. So the awareness of the common flags, red flags, is essential for your protection. If you recognize the signs, you can protect yourself from tremendous emotional and financial harm. Let's take a look at these warning signs. First thing that one should be aware of is that these fraudsters frequently will share with you inconsistent stories, and they contradict each other. Obviously, this is raising a red flag about the authenticity of what they're saying. But remember, you're not the only one who is being placed on the hook. He or she already has many others. So it's difficult to keep the story straight. And in addition, they change the story to meet the current conditions. Backing this up, of course, they will provide vague information. And if they don't want to get into the details about their life, it becomes another warning sign, since this will tip off the fact that they are indicating the deceit that they're trying to accomplish. And then, going along in the same way, they will avoid questions. Okay? If they don't want to give specific answers, period, end the sentence, this could be another signal of dishonesty. Scammers often provide inconsistent stories and vague details about their life in summary. You must be on guard to avoid answering their specific questions, particularly since they're sharing very little about themselves. So please memorize this if you can, and pay attention, please. We don't want anything to happen to you. Okay? The next sign is when one has too, or going through, too rapid a progression on the relationship. He or she is pushing you to move forward. So we have this escalation of affection. And they will very early on express love to you to create this emotional bond, which then will lead to dependency. And they want to thank you for sending the money initially, they love you for doing this, and so on and so forth. And you develop an emotional dependency from that. Okay? So since someone is telling you that they love you, okay, you will, by nature, quickly develop feelings about the other person. And that's what they want. Once that is going on, you are particularly vulnerable to these scams. And when I provide the case study, you'll see this in real life, unfortunately. Okay, what you need is a healthy relationship pace. Okay? It's important to take your time to ensure that you're comfortable with the pace that it is growing in. And you get that feeling deep inside you. So the intuition of this is that you're able to understand what's quote unquote the specifications for the healthy relationship pace. What do we have next here? The next sign is the fact they are reluctant, extremely reluctant, to meet you in person or actually go onto a video chat. They will avoid meetings like the plague. They will give you every excuse in the book to avoid you knowing what they look like and who they are. This raises suspicions. Importance of face-to-face communication. As you know, you're trying to develop a serious relationship here. And that type of relationship blossoms when there is open communication and the fact that you're meeting this individual all the time, one way or the other, by phone or in person, to have these face-to-face meetings. And why do we think this is important? Because if the person is not around, at least one can use these video chats to establish trust and enhance communications when in-person meetings are not possible. I think this is pretty straightforward, yeah? Scammers will avoid in-person meetings or video chat. Relationships should have a willingness to meet and communicate face-to-face. The next major topic involves what steps can you take knowing the signs to protect yourself. The steps must be proactive. You must get out ahead of the scam by knowing what you're looking for. You do not want to fall victim to these romance scammers. So awareness and vigilance will be the key so that you're not going to get yourself into a situation where you're going to use these to protect yourself from to safeguard your emotional and financial well-being. Our next important topic in this area is the fact that one must verify the identities and backgrounds that of people that you have met, so quote unquote, on the social media, for those people who appear to be too friendly too soon and trying to get to know you even a bit more that you might like. And there's a very famous president by the name of Ronald Reagan who came out with this one sentence which sums it up: trust but verify. Okay. Why is this important? Okay. Because if you don't do this, okay, you are not protecting yourself. You are not ensuring your safety and your own trust in digital interactions. Okay. This is one of the most critical things that you could do. And people don't do it for a variety of reasons. I think one of them might be they're embarrassed to do it. Don't be embarrassed, please. So how do you do this? How do you verify? One way is to conduct background checks. I know you're not the FBI and you're not the CIA. They're protecting the country. We want to protect our community. Okay? So, and yourself. So there are tools out there which allows you for a very minimal cost, without quote unquote snooping, to conduct a very detailed background check. And you can find these on the web. They're quite good. They're used even in a professional manner. And you should really consider this because it helps you to confirm the authenticity of the people who you meet online. And then you could even take today an image that you somehow might have and do what is called a reverse lookup. The artificial intelligence tools that are available will accept the file and review it against millions of photographs in a very short time. And you might be surprised. It does not match the individual. I know. What can we say? Okay, so always verify the identity of individuals you meet online that you want to establish a very serious relationship with. The two things, as I said, is to conduct background checks and to do this reverse utilization of images so that you can ensure that they are who you are talking to. Simple. Please do it. This is a companion piece to the information that I presented in the previous slide. And this is entitled, Be Cautious with Your Personal Information. Sounds obvious, right? Your privacy is very important. It is who you are. And you only want to have this out here to those people who you trust. Yeah, it sounds very bad that you have to do this, but you will. If you don't keep your privacy of your information and your thoughts and yourself, you are going to whirl into these scams. Okay? So make sure that you're very, very careful when you give out any type of personal information. And with this individual, initially, you must establish healthy boundaries. Don't answer every question. Be very cautious because the individual is going to use this information to gather more information about you. Yes, it sounds paranoid, but no, it isn't. And as they say, a little bit of paranoia is a good thing. And we could spend a lot of time on this. Okay? So early in the relationship, particularly, hopefully you don't have to do it past that point. You must be mindful of the personal information that you share. The scammers will use this information to manipulate you and to exploit you. And also be aware, when you establish this relationship in the beginning, it's not by chance. The individual, the scammer, the fraudulent individual, has already looked up a lot of information on you. He or she is coming very well prepared. And you're going, if you don't follow the rules, what happens is you're really facilitating the ability for him to succeed in the scam. We come now to the next topic, which is support and resources should you become victimized, but things you should know anyway if you want to help out your friends and family and so forth. Okay? It's important to know because you're going to be depressed. God forbid this ever happens to you, very depressed. And it's important to know that there are resources out there that can support you through these problems. We hope. But sometimes it's rather entangled. During the presentation of this section, I will share with you this case study. So hang on. One of the really important things that you need to do is the reporting of suspicious activities. Why is it so important? Reporting these activities is crucial not just to protect yourself, but to protect others from scams and frauds. You need to have guidance from the authorities. This is like grand theft. It is grand theft. So contacting these authorities, you open yourself up to receiving guidance. And they have special teams, because this is so prevalent, that they will work with you and try to handle the situation as best as possible. And then the issue is, how do you protect others? And that is by reporting. You contribute to the entire community safety and prevent others from falling victim. There's some repetition in this slide, and there's a reason for it. Trying to make the point very strongly that you must report these activities, even if it's just a hunch initially. If you suspect a scam, report the scam. Don't be shy. It's not easy going to the police, but for the most part, they are on our side, and they do a very, very good job of it. What's going to happen, okay, if you get caught up in this? You want to get the support. Again, maybe you can't imagine this. Maybe you can. There is a great impact on your mental health should you get taken in. And again, there's no shame in this. You may have to get through the situation. So it's suggested that you enlist the aid of professional counseling. Most insurance covers a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a social worker. It's out there. I've used these people for other reasons. It's very effective and it gets you through some hard times. In addition, there are support groups as well. The professional counselor can even suggest some of these groups, but you can also very carefully find a support group on the web. Again, you have to be careful that the group is real, that you're not sharing new information out there with people you don't want. So recovering from a romance scam definitely takes a toll. But let us take advantage of what is out there in terms of resources that is going to minimize in certain respects or decrease the impact of the psychological aspects of falling for one of these, speaking frankly. What type of legal and financial assistance is there should you get involved with these romance scams? There is an opportunity for recovery of your funds, as small as the opportunity might be. But people who have experienced these financial losses, you have to know from professionals how to recover these lost funds. You must understand your legal rights. This is getting a very complicated environment that we live, if you can imagine that. In your day-to-day environment, you must have an understanding of your legal rights. There are rights and there are resources which are available to navigate through these legal challenges. I am not going to give you legal advice here. And the resources are available and they will give you guidance and support you for both the legal, financial, and even the emotional issues. You're going to face these challenges, but help is there and it's on the way. Let's take a look now at some organizations and helplines that will probably be pretty good service to help one get through being caught in one of these scams. Okay, so support. There are various organizations, I said, that actually are dedicated to support the victims of romance scams, and they help you through the experience of being in one. So they could be very valuable. They also will provide a connection to the resources. We said there were many resources, but these people will act with you as if they were sort of consultants and give you lists and make introductions with the helplines and other organizations who might be vital information sources for the recovery from these scams. So this is all some very critical assistance which is available just for the asking, and of course the difficulty of getting over the fact that you were just taken advantage of in a particularly extreme way. So here they are there for you. Okay? And we just said this. So that summarizes it. They can provide the critical support. All right, so now we come to the case study of an actual and very recent romance scam, which I have learned about through my wife, whose friend really fell for it. We're going to walk through it. It occurred late in 2024 and early 2025. And in certain respects, even though she says she's done with it, this woman, I am not sure. I'm going to believe it for a while. Okay? Hopefully she is finished. Okay. Let's get into this case study now, which we said was a Facebook-initiated romance scam. One day, the victim, friend of ours, checked her Facebook messages. And interestingly, she finds this horrible pleading message, for whatever reason, addressed to her from, listen to this, a U.S. surgeon based in Japan, but who has his money in Germany. You believe that one? I have a bridge in Brooklyn for sale. She responds to this message and asks, what's wrong? That's a logical thing to do. She's a caring individual. He responds and asks for the phone number, her phone number, so that they can talk privately. So the first bit of personal information that she gave out was her phone number. Remember that. So she gives him the number, and immediately, he calls her. Okay? And now we begin, really. And he explains the situation, where he lives, where he works, where he has his money, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I'm in desperate shape. Okay? I need immediately $5,000 to be sent to me because I have no money. A surgeon in Japan, U.S., has no money. Okay? Good. So she goes to the store and she buys a certain type of uh, gift card, which happens to be a so-called e-card. And an e-card is really, just a receipt and with some numbers, and she can go to the web, go into, like, for example, Visa, and put in that number, and they will credit her bank with her bank or any other bank with the money. And that's the way he preferred to get the money because there's very little audit trail that's associated with it. And these gift cards are frangible. So he calls and he immediately says, you ready? I love you. Okay? I love you because you sent it to me and you're such a wonderful individual. How could I ever have lived my life without me? And then he'll call her the next day. She really believes him and cannot wait for him to come. Got it? Good. He calls and says that he wants to visit with her, but not only that, He wants to bring his children as well so they could meet her as stepmother, caretaker, whatever. But of course, I need some money to clean up these remaining bills, and it's the only way I'm going to be able to live. Buy the tickets. I need some expense money for the trip, and so on and so forth. Everybody's sitting down. He asks for $25,000 by tomorrow. He specifies it by tomorrow, and she goes ahead and does the same thing. Okay, buys the e-cards from money from a bank and emails them to this individual. Now, one has to pay attention always is what are the letters after the dot. For example, Amazon.com. Okay, and every government has its own dot. So, and Ghana happens to be .gh. And one could ask, why Ghana? That's simple. Ghana is the world's capital of these scams. It's a business, a booming business there. And she believes this and goes out and she buys the cards. And that's it. And then emails them to Ghana. And in the end, she unfortunately, basically over a few weeks only, I would say 6 weeks max, she cleans herself out, and he's over $100,000 richer. This is no lie. This is no made-up story. This is the way. This is the trail. Okay? From the time she gives the number to the time he closes on her and wipes her out. Very, very sad story. And by the way, this is only the top layer of the story. Some personal details, which obviously I left out. And also, it would take about a day to be able to put this down in a way that one would understand it. It's that bad. Okay, this is the conclusion. We're coming to the end. Thank you, everybody, for staying here so long. So in conclusion, the most important thing is to have awareness. If you have awareness, you're mitigating the situation where you could fall for one of these artists, con artists. Next, you must seek support to help you get out from it. And overall, vigilance is the key. When you interact with people online, you must be vigilant and cautious. You just, I can't say this enough, but or a nice way. Okay? Interacting online is dangerous. And if you're not thinking about this, if you're not vigilant about it, you are going to get hurt. There's just no doubt about it. Because they are, quote unquote, professionals in what they do. They probably could be great actors. Taking a look at what the pattern of a romance scam on the left, the warning signs. Usually they claim to be from the U.S. or Canada, but it is overseas on some business or military trip. He or she will then ask for money, and he lures you away from the dating site for a more private conversation. And then he claims he needs even more money quickly for emergencies, hospital bills, accidents, travel, pocket money, and so forth. So please understand that this scam that I described to you is exactly what's pointed out in this notice to the left by one of the organizations. I promise you, I did not make this up. This is real and this is recent. Please be vigilant. Please don't become a victim. Now let's take a look at the next episode. And it appears that nobody's immune, so, don't be fooled by that. Don't feel bad. Yeah, I mean, you are going to feel bad, but don't make it worse on yourself. Because no one is truly immune. The smartest people will fall for this. Because the scammers themselves are very highly professional in what they do. It's their livelihood. It's how they make money to survive. Okay. Well, we're going to continue in the next episode, which is in the area of safety and security. And we're going to explore another topic, which has a lot in common with these scams in certain respects. And this is the topic of elder abuse. And it is a terrible situation and all too common to happen. This might help you. You can look it up. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on October the 1st, 2025. There's a lot of events scheduled. And the bottom line is your rights don't get old. They are forever. Therefore, we believe that the next episode, along with this one, is essential for survival in these difficult times or interesting times. Yeah? This is the last slide. Nothing fancy here. Please, if you feel this way, if you believe it, like and subscribe. We're interested, we don't have it set up yet, to get some funding through Patreon. We want to do crowdfunding, sponsoring, but to get sponsors, but we're going to be very careful who these sponsors are because we do not want someone to come ahead and try to manipulate us into promoting a particular type of product or service. And we'd like to get some advertising as well along the same lines where we will keep our independence. To the left is our seniorpower.com website. I think you'll like it a lot. It's very robust. We go into these topics in much greater detail, and you should be able to get a lot out of it. And please subscribe, like, comment, share what your own experiences have been, and we will respond and we will try to improve. So again, please, thank you very, very much. I know this is almost a half an hour, or it is now a half an hour, and I appreciate you going through this and sticking with us for all the time. So until next time, peace.